Thank you very much for this very nice and very accurate and essential introduction. It sums up my presentation already. We're done. As you can see here, I start off with a very, very ugly, or I don't know if ugly is the right word, but definitely not very pretty typeface. It's a thing called Averia, and someone took the time to collect the, I don't know, 500 more most common used fonts and make an average out of these fonts. And Roger said it looks horrible, horrifying, I think he said. But I somehow like it. I don't know what it is, but I use this because I want to talk about information entropy, and using a typeface that is just a mix of everything out there seemed to be very appropriate. I use a different typeface for every presentation. If I use slides, often I don't. And I try to match it with what I say. I speak at a lot of tech conferences, and it's a very peculiar audience usually there. Tech people are very excited about numbers. They're very excited about growth. They're very excited about what they do, obviously. Otherwise they wouldn't do what they do. And usually what you hear are things like, yeah, thanks to digital, this year we have 15 million books. Isn't that fantastic? Even 10 years ago, we had 300,000 books published per year, and this year, we published 15 million books. It's amazing. We can do that because of digital. Isn't that amazing? It's great, right? And then, you know, you will go on and say, and you know what? 51 million new websites per year. That's amazing, isn't it? That's great. We're so good. We're so powerful. And thanks to us, and thanks to what we do, we have websites like Facebook that have over 1 billion users. Imagine that, over 1 billion users use Facebook. It's great, isn't it? And I mean, this number has been passed already. That was in October. So now with mobile, you know, wow, 1.1 billion smartphone subscribers. And this is just the beginning. $2.4 billion users globally, and they tweet 182 billion tweets. It gets better and better. Right? 380 billion photos per year. That's all in 2012. Almost 1 trillion Facebook likes. And this is nothing. You know, it gets better. Because we're so good at what we do that, you know, we search 1.5 trillion things per year. And we send 8.6 trillion short messages. Now, that's good technology. And email. Yeah. That's a lot, right? I think it's called 52 trillion. And that's fantastic. It's just, because the more information we share, the more we know, right? It's just, and we need more to know more, because we didn't have enough information before the internet. That was our problem, that we didn't have enough information back in the day. Now we have so much information. We can share it, and we can, you know, tweet it, and we can discuss about it online with our friends, and we get smarter and smarter. It's, you know, we've almost reached the end of history now, because we're so incredibly intelligent with so much information. Now, the bad news is that you know, what you've seen with all these zeros, it's not a number that is made for our mind. Even imagining something like $1 trillion, it gets really, really hard. So this is $1 trillion. You know, you probably know this imagery from the big crisis in 2008. $15 trillion looks like this. It's a lot of money, right? $52 trillion is something like that. So 52 trillion emails, $52 trillion. Now if you think that for every bill here, you would get an email if it were 52 trillion emails, you're wrong, because these are $100 bills. So actually, 52 trillion emails, if each email had to be printed on a dollar bill, a $1 bill, it would be this much information. We can't process that anymore. It's very abstract. But it's great, because the more information we have, the smarter we get. And we have to be faster. Things are too slow. We don't tweet enough. We don't write enough. We don't communicate enough. You know, better usability. We need better usability, because this is not, you know, this is not disruptive enough. We can be smarter. We can be more intelligent. We can save the world if we just share more, just faster, quicker. That's the idea. Now, of course, what gets lost often in this debate, I'm not so sure if you have more information that automatically you're wiser or anything like that. I'm not quite convinced about this, but what we know for sure is that, well, the quality of these 52 trillion emails, not so great, right? You don't get, you know, great poetry or philosophy or, yeah, even anything you could easily understand in these emails. It's mostly a nuisance. And, you know, if you look at how much spam actually we get via email, 68% is just crap. It's just shit. It's just mere shit. And the rest, the remaining 32%, where does it end? It mostly ends in the trash. We call it archive, because we might need this later, and you know, it's information and it helps us and it makes us smarter, so we keep it just to make sure we don't lose any of that amazing information. But if you think about it, most emails you get are orders. Give me this, give me that, do this, do the other thing. Mostly it's used as a task list. But the goal of an email is to be deleted or put in the archive, if you wish. The goal of an email is to disappear. So how much quality is in there? How much really valuable information do we share with these 52 trillion emails per year? If we save 0.01% of these emails because there is anything really valuable for us in the future, I think this is even an optimistic guess, because, yeah, inbox zero is the goal of this program, right? Well, if you think that was it, it gets much better. You know, 48 billion hours of YouTube, and here, you know, you guess where I'm going. Actually, 1 billion. I'm not even sure, there's so many zeros, I always have to count million, billion. Yeah, 1 billion times that Gangnam Style video has been seen. So, you know, that's made us much smarter. YouTube is a symbol for crap, right? Now, it's not only email and, you know, YouTube. We spend a lot of time, or people in my industry spend a lot of time on this thing here, Twitter. And what is useful here, really? This is a random screenshot I took a couple of weeks back. Actually, this is the only thing that concerns me. But it's a retweet of something I've done. So actually, it's not even this is really relevant. You know, Twitter gets a lot of credit for being so reduced and essential, but wow. If you really try to focus what am I interested in, it's navigation. And one tweet that is hardly relevant for me. Same thing for Facebook. Facebook got lucky because you know, I caught it at the time where one of my friends posted something and a lot of people answered, but you could also argue, well, do we really need to see this right away as well? And with a little bit more care, maybe we could get rid of a lot of these things here as well. So in design as well, things got really noisy, and one of the pioneers of trying to reduce things to the essence, Google, these days looks like this, and it's full of shit. If you compare that to, you know, what Google was like in the beginning, that's what we signed up for. And these days they think, well, what was it, 15 billion searches, 15 trillion searches per year is not enough interaction. We need to engage people more, right? So they do this. But actually that's what we want. And if we only get this, you know, we're willing to accept a little useless thing like this. Has anyone ever clicked on this? Hands up. I don't usually do the hands up, but I'm really curious. Who ever clicked on I'm feeling lucky? Yeah, about 20%. And who uses it? I'm feeling lucky. 0. But yeah, we're willing to accept a little bit of fun if you give us a little bit of space. Yeah, a random screenshot also at the same time of the New York Times. You know, it's a common thing. Newspapers are full with ads, and they're very hard to read. You have to go in like snake lines, and most of it looks quite desperate. I have an ad blocker. I design online newspapers, and my clients probably get angry if they see this, but I just can't read them otherwise. And I like news. That's why I got into news design. So I felt like, well, okay, for this, so my clients don't get all too angry, to make a screenshot, I act like I have ads, and then, you know, it said, oh, it's out of date. It's always out of date, isn't it? That's the thing with Flash. It was out of date, you know, when it started, and I don't know, it's always out of date, and so I was like, okay, maybe that feeds into my narrative of the web being just a big mess. When I started, I was quite excited about becoming a web designer, and one reason was that I hated TV so much. I was addicted to TV as a teenager in the 80s and watched Knight Rider and any kind of crap program, and it felt really horrible until I decided I'm not going to watch TV anymore. Then I got into computers, but I thought, yeah, we're going to make a change. There's not the whole corporate blah blah blah, and we're communicating with each other, interactive. Which a lot of people think is TV, right? They say, when a client says interactive, he means a movie. He means like moving logos and stuff. But no, I meant really interactive, like we talk to each other. We go and search for the products we're interested in, and we talk to other people. So how does that new, I don't know, that new pair of shoes work out for you? Should I buy the same ones? That's kind of the idea behind the web, was that we're in control. But in the meantime, it's all advertisement. It's Twitter as well. I mean, a lot of people think this is somewhat authentic or something. They say like, yeah, that you have to be yourself, but get real. Like Twitter, Facebook, whatever you do online, in public, it's advertisement. You either advertise your company, or your political opinions, or your friend's product. It's all advertisement. And it's gotten really annoying to the point where I actually feel it's exactly the same as TV. It's not a place where you get real information. It's highly manipulated. And if you think that Wikipedia is sort of an example of how, you know, grassroots information gets built, and, you know, the intelligence of the cloud, a funny expression, you know, becomes real and useful and helpful. Watch what happens when there's any kind of nuclear incident. Look at Wikipedia, and you see, you know, the PR people are all over it, you know, because this is where you influence public opinion, where people think this is real. So it's like TV, and it's really noisy. It's very, very hard to focus. I start hating that medium. And it's boring too because of that. I feel the same these days as I felt as a teenager with Knight Rider and The Bold and the Beautiful and whatever they showed on TV. I'm bored, mostly terribly, terribly bored. And a real tech person now would get angry and say, it was your fault, you just have to go to the right places, go to Reddit, there, it's interesting. No, it's boring. And yeah, like I said, it's mostly advertisement. Why? Well, you know, there's this idea that actually the public is very intelligent. There's this the intelligence of the crowd. You know, people in crowds are animals. They're not intelligent. That's precisely what happens with people in crowds. They switch off their logic. And that somewhere behind the scenes there are people manipulating us, manipulating the media so we consume more. And I'm pretty much in agreement with Steve Jobs. I think that the internet looks like it does because that's what we want. We want it to look like that. I'm pretty sure. I've been in this business for a long time, and of course there are business constraints, you know, and of course, I mean, a newspaper would like to have no banners. It's not like they're saying, yeah, we should punish people to read our newspaper. They just have no choice because people want stuff for free, and to kind of support that model, they need to add more and more aggressive advertisement. So it kind of works too. It kind of works. It's not like it doesn't work. You know, Facebook, which is a company selling ads, Google, which is a company selling ads, they make massive amounts of money. It works, this whole free thing works beautifully for them. And it works because people want that, and they're willing to accept the quality as it is. If that were not the case, well, then the web wouldn't have evolved in exactly the same way as TV has. I think that it's mainly the web, as we see it today, is mainly a mirror of us. You know, there is this genuine interactive moment in there, and we can do a lot of things that we couldn't do before. And what we've made out of it is a mirror of what we are as a crowd. We're animals. And we're special animals in the sense that, very much like viruses, our main talent is to make a mess. That's what we're really good at. You know, when you discuss technology, when you discuss the future of humanity, you can take a pessimist perspective and say, oh, well, you know, the internet is another proof that, you know, the apocalypse is near. You know, we're doomed. Everything's going to shambles. And if you take an optimist perspective, say, no, there's another new technology that will filter these things and will get better. That's the optimist side. But if you look through history, culture sort of seems to be the trail of us dealing with that annoying main talent of creating a mess. We're good at making a mess, but we're also good at dealing with this mess, cleaning it up. We never reach a point where we completely clean up our mess. We sort of evolve through dealing with this annoying ability. This is also sort of creativity, I guess. But as we can see, you know, if we're too optimistic about technology, what we end up with are things like radioactive, what do you call it, Abfall, trash that we can't get rid of in the next 100,000 years. There are horrible things happening to the sea right now, like this, you know, plastic soup that builds in different places around the planet that make the sea a nightmare. You know, it's sort of heavenly without us, and we're making a big mess. And you know, often we hear, well, you know, we have to save the planet. We're ruining the planet. Well, the planet doesn't really care that much. We're making a mess of our own environment. And, well, what we do is we increase the system's disorder. Whatever we do, you know, we can clean up things again, but in some ways we can't get around that. It also seems some sort of a cosmic principle. Now, why am I so negative? Well, I've been working in this industry for quite a long time, and I made it my job to clean up, to reduce things to the essence, and I believe that, you know, we need that more than ever now. But I don't believe in any kind of tech optimists bullshit, like messiness scales meaning. No, dealing with the mess, you know, might create new meaning, but it's not just automatically all gonna resolve itself by, you know, furthering more aggressive technology. Of course, Silicon Valley sees that in a completely different way, right? More technology, better things get, but that's, we sort of know that's not true. So what do we know for sure? You know, what I learned also dealing with the nuclear catastrophe in Japan is that both optimism and pessimism are dangerous. You know, if you're pessimist, you sort of you freeze up and you can't deal with the mess anymore. And if you're optimist, you're running the risk of making things worse and worse. So I think, you know, science, among the many things we develop to deal with the mess we're creating, has a good point by saying, well, just try to neither be optimist or pessimist in whatever assumption you take. And, you know, you can easily be pessimist if you look through history. This is Hiroshima, just after the bomb was dropped. This is, again, that horrible plastic soup we're building in the oceans. You know this graph here. A lot of Americans would disagree with this. But this is Hiroshima today. So, you know, I wouldn't call this clean, but it's better than this. It's more orderly than this. It's actually astonishingly, somehow beautiful even, you know? It's kind of beautiful. So we're good at cleaning up, but making a mess and ignoring it is what we're really, really, really good at. And in both cases, technology, you know, from the very first hammer we built with a stone until web technology that we have these days, it's mainly an amplifier. Technology is always an extension of our body. And, you know, technology amplifies both the mess, can amplify both the mess, but it can also amplify the cleaning tools. Think about the broom, right? It helps a lot cleaning up the mess on the floor. If you had to use your little fingers to clean in front of your house, that'd be quite annoying and time-consuming. But I think as digital designers these days, and I don't like so much, you know, I'm very moral, I sound very moral, I know that, and I don't like that kind of moral approach, oh, designers have to save the world, but as a digital designer in particular, you have to be aware that there is a possibility, if you think back at this mountain of trash we're creating, with digital technology, just email or SMS, that what we're doing right now to our minds or to our inner space is similar to what analog technology has done to our planet. This is not pessimistic and it's not optimistic. It's quite a viable option. So the question then is, can we design or program this away? Well, to a certain degree we can. As much as efficient design increases information entropy if it's used in the wrong way. As designers, we're trained to reduce things to the essence. In the same way, if you look at basic design principles where white space is not necessarily something that needs to be filled with ads, but that actually increases meaning. I think in a time of constant sharing and constant fragmentation of our reality, silence and pauses can give structure. They hurt though, right? So when you wait for the bus and then suddenly there's nothing happening, it's much easier to just switch to go to Switzerland where Oliver just said something on Twitter, or to then move back to San Francisco and start switching places until that bus arrives. Or you can just stay there and not enjoy the silence, endure it. Endure the silence. It hurts. It really, really hurts. The reason why we share so much information and we produce so much trash is because we're good at making a mess. We like making a mess. Look at kids, give them a jar of Nutella or something. They love making a mess, and we're still like that inside. And silence and pauses, not only in speaking, but in our daily life, they give meaning to what happens between them. And that's become quite hard because most of these digital corporations, they try to get every second on the toilet, at the bus station, when you wake up in the middle of the night from a nightmare, quickly check what happens on Twitter. They're in this business. And why? Because it really works well for them financially, of course. But it doesn't work so well for us, I think. Not really. I think that's almost common knowledge. And the other thing is, I sucked at spelling and grammar as a kid. I still kind of do. The computer helps me a lot. You can't see many mistakes. But I got better at it when I realized that actually reading what I've written very slowly and caring for details, there's a real pleasure there. It's not like the pause that hurts a little bit. It actually makes you feel at ease with what you produce. So it's not you don't get necessarily smarter and wiser and more intelligent the more information you share. You don't necessarily produce better work if you speed things up. But sometimes, you might rather limit what you're doing and care for the details. There's a lot of pleasure in that. And caring for details also shows that you care for whom you design. And people will maybe not recognize that if they're not designers, but they will feel it. So details add a lot of, emotional quality to a design, but they also clear things up. Because when you care for details, you put more thought into the product, and that automatically makes the product clearer. So clearer doesn't necessarily mean cutting things away. Sometimes it means adding things. Like that get lucky button on Google, which is completely useless, but it's a nice detail. You can't see it anymore these days. But. And then this thing is I learned that from my kids. For some reason, especially Europeans, maybe Americans as well, Roger said it, they must be revolutionary. You can't do the same thing again. You have to change everything. And you can't copy anything. Copying is bad, bad, bad. It's very deeply ingrained in our culture, but in our nature it's not. Music is mainly variations on repetition, and it's great fun. It's great fun watching the same movie again and again, and reading the same book again and again. It's great fun. You don't get smarter if you read all the critiques of Immanuel Kant, you know, in one track, and then move on to Hegel, and then move on to Heidegger. Maybe you should read the Critique of the Pure Reason 10 times until you start understanding it, and you gain much more than just consuming a lot of letters that you can hardly get a grasp on. Repetition is great, and repetition is a basic principle in design that we're very familiar with. And if you do it consciously, in style, with words, as well as with design elements, it's actually fun. It's fun for you to play with. You know, type design is mainly repeating the same patterns again and again and again until they create a whole that works very much like music. And yeah, don't be afraid of repetition. Don't hunt for the new. Don't hunt for the revolution, but be radical. And that other thing is, I think when I talk to Anglo-Saxon people, that is an important point where I have to add a lot of information to back it up. I think in Europe it's more common knowledge that, you know, being negative is not necessarily bad. It's not evil, you know. It's not like the color black is evil or something. So negativity can motivate. I find that online, because it's become an ad medium, everybody tries, or many people try to be upbeat and positive about everything, and that is dishonest, and it's unclear, and it's messy, and because there's this innate pressure to be positive and upbeat about everything, you know, you have the trolls on the other side. You know, people go anonymous and they say like, now I'm going to really say what I think. I think we should be able, and we should probably try to communicate with our Americans why negativity is okay. It's fine to say no, it's fine to dislike something. There's nothing wrong with that. It's almost a given here in Europe, but like I said, I made this sheet for our American friends. And slowness is powerful. I notice that when I give speeches, you know, I always get nervous. You're so silent, and many very smart people in here, and I could be scared. And so I quickly say everything I want to say, so you can follow me and you accept that, that it's interesting what I say, because you know, just quickly convince you, because it's important. And then when I convinced you, everything's going to be fine. And then I noticed that, in contrary, when I take my time and think ahead while I speak and choose my words carefully, people pay much more attention than when I give you a lot of information very quickly. This is something I learned speaking on stage. It's something I learned in design as well, because my nature is not like that. I want to get to stuff quickly, but I learned to care for details. I learned to care, to take my time. It's also something that I observed yesterday with one particular judge, that, you know, slowness can be very powerful. We tend to forget that. We tend to forget that because our culture is so much focused on, you know, increasing speed and increasing sharing and quicker and faster, and, you know, all our devices are too slow, usability is not quite there, and we need faster chips. Actually, really powerful people take their time. Well, okay. Now, enough with the philosophy. A lot of people are in the design business and they want to learn something that they can use and make money with. Design is a process, writing is a process, business is a process. This is something I learned in the 9 years I'm in the industry. If the process sucks, the result sucks. So all the design principles I mentioned before, they count in the actual act of designing. But as a design business, you take a step back and you don't look at the thing from close anymore, but you try to understand how the process works. And what I've learned designing mainly websites and applications for clients is that apart from the technical stuff that we enjoy as designers, as business people, we need to try and understand the processes on the client side. And we need to take the same care and detail and slowness in this, and not just accept the design brief and say, oh, quickly, let's get this done, and then if it doesn't like it, we change it. But you have to try to slow the client down and say, like, okay, let's first start by looking at your process. So who are you, and how do you communicate internally? Who is in charge, and why is it like that? And how does the communication work with your client? Do you really know your client? Do you know what your client thinks about you? And this has been a complete revolution for us as a company. When we stopped caring so much about the technical aspect of what we do, and we started to look at processes and understand that by designing for clients, we change their processes, and that we can and that we should. Because if you do not change the client's process through your design, you're not going to achieve anything. You're just going to make pretty things. You have to, if you want to have positive impact and actually reduce the noise on the client side, you have to understand the processes over there and influence them, change them. To give you an example, Freitag is a client of us, and they make bags. Each bag is different because it's made from a different tart, what's it called? Anyway, each bag is different. Truck thing. And one problem they had with their e-commerce shop is that they have to show each bag individually. So that means they have to take a picture of each bag individually and put it on the store. This sounds very expensive already, right? Now, if you know the high level of design quality that they want to achieve, you can see the star photographer taking a picture of the hundreds of thousands of bags they make. Each bag has to be taken by a star photographer. This costs too much. This is why in the old shop that they had standard photos that were very high quality and that mirrored exactly the quality standards of the client. And we said, if you really want to make money online, you have to be able to show each bag individually, because people don't want to buy, a blueprint of a bag and then, be surprised how it's going to look in reality. You have to have this high quality photography for each bag. And they said, that's impossible. We can't hire a star photographer to take hundreds of thousands of pictures of bags. They're produced on the fly. And then we said, well, what if the star photographer put up a photo station with the lighting and with everything that is needed to take a high quality picture, and every bag when it's produced goes through this photo station as part of the process. And they said, well, that's impossible because we tried that, but we produce so many bags, the camera can't handle it. The people, there's a big traffic jam at the photo station. We tried it, doesn't work. There's no, don't go there. We know what we do. And then we said, so how many photo stations did you have? 1, so why don't you try 2? All right, yeah, that's right. And then it worked. So you, as a designer, you can't stop what you're doing and say like, okay, then we use this standard picture for all the bags because it's a photo station. Somehow the process, I can't even, it's too complicated. You have to go in there and try to understand each bit of that process. and you know the shop works beautifully now. They were able to break even on the design investment in 1.5 months, and this was one of the more expensive design jobs we've done. What I find, you know, we're almost in a unique position there, especially in digital, is that a lot of design is focused on trying to, and a lot of PR is focused on trying to make a company look good. You know, so you paint a nice picture of the company and try to get the best information, and you're basically building a facade outside the building. If you imagine a website being, you know, the building, the information building of a company, what you're doing is you build a facade, and this doesn't work anymore with, you know, interactive information. So in order to change the way companies communicate, you need to be able to influence that internal information process and take the facade down. This sounds very optimistic, especially compared to, you know, my negative speech before, but it's possible, and it's helpful, and it increases actually the business performance of companies. We put it in our words, saying your information architecture is your brand architecture. You know, your brand architecture shouldn't be something that looks and sounds nice, but it should match the way you understand yourself, the way you see yourself. To sum things up, reduction creates essence, silence and pauses give structure, details clear things up, conscious repetition is fun, negativity motivates, slowness is powerful, and last but not least, always focus on process and not on pretty pictures.